bustling lanes. From coins once traded in bustling lanes to digital dreams and financial chains. Money has shaped both night and day, guiding the world in its own silent way. But wealth alone cannot truly succeed without trust, support, and the helping hand of credit we need. So, with eager hearts and minds so bright, we welcome you all to this enlightening sight.
A very graceful and pleasant morning to one and all present here. Today, standing at the crossroads of knowledge and awareness, I, Chitesha Marwa,
And I, Sanchi Sedana,
extend our heartfelt welcome to our worthy parents. A very good morning to our Honorable Managing Director, Dr. P.S. Sudan Sir, our respected directors, esteemed teachers, and dear students, to this thought-provoking and meaningful annual presentation on the topic Money and Credit.
money is often called the backbone of an economy, while credit is the trust that transforms dreams into reality. From the smallest daily transactions to the growth of great industries, money and credit play a vital role in shaping our modern world.
Through today's performances, we explore the fascinating world of finance, the role of bank and borrowers, the power of saving and lending, and the impact of money and credit on our everyday lives.
And so, with curious minds and cheerful hearts, let us now begin this wonderful celebration of expression, learning, and awareness.
Let us start our day with a soulful prayer, Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. I now request everybody to kindly rise, take your positions, and put your right hand on your left shoulder as we prepare ourselves for the morning prayer. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Where knowledge is free. Where knowledge is free. Where the world has not been broken up into fragments. Where the world has not been broken up into fragments. By narrow domestic walls. By narrow domestic walls. Where words come out from the depth of truth. Where words come out from the depth of truth. Where the mind is led forward by thee. Where the mind is led forward by thee. Into ever-widening thought and action. Into ever-widening thought and action. Into that heaven of freedom. Into that heaven of freedom. My Father. My Father. Let my country awake. Let my country awake. Amen. Amen.
Every day is a blank page in the story of life, and a meaningful thought gives us the ink to write it well. So I would like to call Yuvansh of our class to share with us the thought of the day.
Money provides the means, but credit provides the opportunity. Together they are the fuel for a nation's progress. I repeat my thought. Money provides the means, but credit provides the opportunity. Together they are the fuel for a nation's progress. Thank you.
Every thought has the power to inspire a new perspective, and every discussion brings us closer to deeper awareness. Money and credit do not just shape economies, they shape opportunities, struggles, and the future of society itself. Now, presenting a thoughtful group discussion on the topic money and credit by our talented participants.
Good morning everyone and welcome to Nosegay Live, a platform where real issues meet real conversations. I am Yashnil Bhatia.
And I am Sanchi Sedana. And today we have with us a remarkable group. A farmer, a banker, an RBI official, an economist, a startup founder, and many more voices, each bringing a completely different perspective to the table.
And all of them are here to discuss one thing, money and credit. Two words that may sound very simple but quietly affect every decision that we make in our lives.
Today we'll be asking some important questions. Who controls money and credit? Does the system work for everyone equally? What happens when it fails? And where is it all headed?
These are not just textbook questions. These are questions that affect real lives, real futures, and real families.
So let's get into it. Welcome to today's discussion on money and credit.
So let's start with our first agenda. Are central banks the silent architects of a nation's economy or the invisible forces controlling it?
Ms. Purvi, as the RBI official here today, could you explain how the RBI controls the flow of money in the economy?
The RBI manages the flow of money in the economy through various monetary tools. The repo rate is the rate at which RBI gives short-term loans to banks. If we increase the repo rate, loans become expensive. Banks lend less money, money supply reduces, and the inflation comes down. But if we reduce it, borrowing becomes cheaper and economic growth increases.
So the repo rate is one important tool, but it is not the only one. Ms. Parini, as a financial analyst, could you explain some of the other terms we often hear when people talk about RBI policies?
Sure. The first is the reverse repo rate, which is the long-term rate at which RBI borrows money from banks. If this rate increases, banks prefer parking money with RBI instead of lending it in the market, which again helps control inflation. And inflation, a continuous rise in prices where slowly the same money starts buying less. Then there is the bank rate, which is the long-term rate at which RBI lends money to banks. Higher bank rates make borrowing costlier and reduce money supply.
But Ms. Harshita and Ms. Khushi, while these policies may stabilize the economy, how do ordinary people experience them in real life?
People may not understand monetary policy, but they feel inflation directly. During the Russia-Ukraine war, fuel prices increased, making everything from food to travel more expensive. And at the same time, high interest rates made loan and EMIs costlier, which was ultimately felt at the kitchen table.
Mr. Tanishq, banks are trusted with people's savings, but during a crisis, how do banks make sure they never suddenly run out of money?
Banks are required to maintain financial discipline. One important rule, SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. This means banks are required to keep a fixed percentage of their funds in safe assets like government bonds. Higher SLR leaves less money for lending and helps control inflation.
The SLR helps banks stay prepared, but financial crisis can be unpredictable. Ms. Harshika, what happens when banks need money urgently?
Apart from this, the banks also have access to MSF, Marginal Standing Facility. It acts as an emergency loan system from RBI at a slightly higher interest rate. It ensures that banks never suddenly run out of liquidity and helps maintain stability during panic situations.
So clearly, institutions like central banks hold an enormous responsibility.
Which brings us to an important question. Should such powerful institutions remain completely independent, or should governments have greater control during difficult times? Mr. Arnav, as an economist, what's your viewpoint on this?
Central banks need independence to avoid short-term political decisions, but complete independence can disconnect them from public needs. The real challenge is balance. When decisions are right, economies stay stable, but when they are wrong, ordinary people have to pay the price.
And this is what makes central banks so powerful. Their decisions may begin in financial offices and policy meetings, but their impact, it reaches every home, every business, and every ordinary citizen. Now we move to our second agenda. Does the money and credit system work for everyone, or just the already wealthy?
Mr. Iman, as a farmer, do you feel the financial system truly supports farmers, or does it favor those who already have money and security?
For farmers, getting bank loans is difficult due to paperwork and lack of collateral like money or proper documents. So we depend upon money lenders who charge high interest that leaves us with almost nothing.
So somewhere people who need support the most are often the ones struggling for it.
Yes, when crops fail due to weather and rising prices, repayment even becomes more difficult.
And this struggle is not limited to farmers alone. Ms. Tejasvi, as a daily wage worker, do people around you truly feel included in today's digital and financial system?
Technology helps, but many of the workers still struggle with unstable income and lack of awareness. Having a bank account is not enough. We don't even know if we'll get work every day. In such situation, taking loan feels risky. People need financial security, not just digital success.
Ms. Thisha, as a wealthy businesswoman, let's look at the other side now. Does the financial system indirectly reward people who already have money and assets?
Yes, the system tends to favor those with assets as they are seen as the safer borrowers and get loans more easily at the lowest interest rates.
Meanwhile, those without assets face more hurdles, so money often flows to those who already have financial strength.
Mr. Bhavin, as a shopkeeper, where do you feel small business owners fit into this system?
We are stuck in the middle. We are not poor enough for the government schemes and not rich enough to show from collateral. Credits are available but not on the right time or on fair terms.
Miss Vanshika, as a startup founder, startups are called the future of India. But if banks mainly trust assets and collateral, how difficult is it for young entrepreneurs to survive?
Startups are based on ideas, not assets. Banks hesitate to lend because they want collateration, something physical as security. But ideas don't have collateral. Because of this, many young entrepreneurs fail simply because they do not get support at right time. Even with talent and innovation, dreams stop due to lack of funding.
So whether it is a farmer, a worker, a businessman or a startup founder, we can see that they're not lacking the potential, they are lacking access.
Miss Anjali, as an investor, how do investors decide where money flows?
Investors look for a balance between risks and returns. Money usually goes where risks are lower and returns are higher. This sounds logical from a financial perspective, but it often means that strong businesses get stronger while weaker or riskier ones struggle. Money does not always go where it needs to. It goes where it feels safe.
And perhaps this is the biggest inequality within the credit system. Because while money has the power to create opportunities, access to that money is still not equal for everyone.
Now let's move to our third agenda. When money and credit systems fail, the lessons history refuses to stop teaching us.
Mr. Arnav, from the 2008 financial crash to inflation after the Russia-Ukraine war and recent Middle Eastern conflicts, crises keep changing form but never truly disappear. Why does the global economy continue falling into the same cycle?
Most crises begin with excessive risk, overconfidence, and weak regulation. Before the 2008 financial crisis, banks gave risky loans, believing that the markets would always grow. Profits existed, but many believed that the system was too big to fail. It was only the people, normal people, who suffered when the market finally crashed. History may change the form of crises, but it is always ordinary people who have to suffer the most.
So we can see that while financial systems may appear powerful during stable times, it is often crises that expose how fragile they really are. Yugansh, as a student, what stands out to you the most when you look at these global crises?
What surprises me the most is how interconnected the world has become. A conflict happening thousands of kilometers away can affect fuel prices, jobs, inflation, and our daily expenses. Many young people today are becoming aware that financial systems are not as stable as they appear. One wrong decision of the governments, banks, or investors can affect millions of people who had nothing to do with the crisis itself.
And maybe the most disturbing part is that the people creating financial risk are often not the ones suffering the consequences first. Ms. Zishti, we recently saw Sri Lanka collapse under debt it couldn't repay. As a businesswoman, if a major economy defaulted on its debt tomorrow, what would that mean for businesses like yours?
It creates a chain reaction. Global lenders panic, credit becomes expensive or unavailable, and businesses struggle to even manage daily operations. Sri Lanka is a warning that when a country borrows beyond its means, it's not just the government that suffers. Every shopkeeper, every farmer, every ordinary citizen pays the price.
And finally, let's move to our last agenda, reimagining money and credit for the next generation.
From digital payments to AI-driven banking, the world of money and credit is changing faster than ever before.
But while technology has created new opportunities, it has also raised some serious questions about privacy, fairness and financial control. Ms. Harshita, as a fintech expert, how does the future of credit look different from what we know today?
The future of credit is becoming faster, more digital and data-driven, with AI helping decide loan eligibility on financial behavior. This can expand access for many people, but it also raises concerns about bias in decision making. So while technology can increase financial access, it can also increase the inequality if it is not used responsibly.
Ms. Kavya, as a teacher, when financial systems are becoming this complex, how important is financial education for young people today?
Financial literacy is extremely important today when many young people can use online payments to truly understand loans, interest rates, investments, or digital fraud. Rising cyber scams highlight this lack of awareness.
Ms. Purvi, when financial systems become more digital and globally connected, what do you believe the future of money and credit should look like?
The future lies in digital systems, inclusive banking, and strong regulations. The goal is to create a system where financial services are accessible to all while maintaining stability and security. The goal should not simply be faster financial services, but safer and fairer ones as well.
So perhaps the future of money and credit does not depend entirely on technology, but also on how humanity chooses to use it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of today's discussion on Nosegay Life. What we have heard today is that money and credit are not just financial tools. They are systems that decide who gets opportunities and who gets left behind. From farmers struggling to get a simple loan to entire countries collapsing under debt. The stakes couldn't be higher.
And yet there is hope in technology, better regulation, and most importantly, awareness. Because the first step towards fixing a system is understanding it. Thank you to all our guests for their wonderful perspectives today, and thank you all for watching Nosegay Live.
This is Sanji Sidana.
And this is Yashni Bhatia.
Signing off. Thank you.
कविता के इन्हीं भागों को लेकर प्रस्तुत हैं चितेशा और परिणी।
ये आसमां छिन गया तो क्या, नया ढूंढ लेंगे हम वो परिंदे नहीं जो उड़ना छोड़ देंगे। मत पूछ हौसले हमारे आज कितने विश्रब्द है, एक नई शुरुआत नया आरंभ तय है, माना अभी हम निशब्द है। ये पारावर छूट गया तो क्या, नया सागर ढूंढ लेंगे हम वो कश्तियां नहीं जो तैरना छोड़ देंगे। कदम चलते रहेंगे जब तक श्वास है, परिस्थिति से परे स्वयं पर हमें विश्वास है। एक रास्ता मिला नहीं तो क्या, नई राहें ढूंढ लेंगे हम वो मुसाफिर नहीं जो चलना छोड़ देंगे। ख्वाबों को महकता रखते हैं हम, मंजिलों से राब्ता रखते हैं। नशा हमें हमारी फितरत का, हर हार करती है बुलंद इरादा जीत का। ये मुकाम हासिल नहीं तो क्या, नए ठिकाने ढूंढ लेंगे हम वो शय नहीं जो अपनी तलाश छोड़ देंगे। हम वो परिंदे नहीं जो उड़ना छोड़ देंगे, हम वो परिंदे नहीं जो उड़ना छोड़ देंगे। धन्यवाद।
Basket has the power to turn history into a living experience before our eyes. From barter trade to modern currency, the way people exchange values has evolved with time. And civilization itself. We now present an engaging skit on the evolution of money and the journey of Indian currency.
Act 1. The Great Barter Disaster. We begin at the very beginning. Ancient India, no money, no banks, no UPI. This was the age of barter, the world's oldest trading system where you exchanged what you had for what you needed.
Greetings, Meena. I have here 40 kilograms of the finest wheat this side of Indus. And in exchange, I would like that blue cloth you've been weaving.
40 kilos for 6 meters of hand-woven cloth. That took me 3 weeks, Arjun.
It is excellent wheat.
No, I don't need wheat. I need a pod. Do you have a pod?
No, Ramesh does, but he needs a goat.
Then do one thing. Go get Harish, who has goats. Then trade your wheat for a goat. And then trade that goat to Ramesh for a pod. And then bring me the pod.
Harish wants clothes. Aha! And this, my friends, is what scholars call double coincidence of wants problem. Both the parties must want exactly what the other has at exactly the same time in exactly the right quantities. And that's not even the worst of it. How do you store your wealth when your savings rot in a week? Barter had no unit of value, no way to save, and no way to divide. It was, economically speaking, a disaster waiting to happen.
Pandit Ratan Lal had been trying to explain this to the whole village for 11 years. Nobody listened.
Humanity needed something durable, something divisible, something that is universally accepted. So across civilizations, humans landed on the same answer, metal, specifically coins. Act 2, the king's new coins.
Somewhere around 600 BCE, the Indian kingdoms made a magnificent decision. The Karshapna, a punch mark silver coin stamped by the state, became one of the earliest currencies in the world. Not just a piece of metal, but a promise.
Magnificent. One coin, standardized value. Treasurer, explain to the people what this means.
Your Majesties, royal currency henceforth shall function as 1. A medium of exchange, 2. A store of value, and 3. A unit of account.
In simple words, man.
You can buy things without needing a gold.
Perfect. What is this?
This is money.
But why is it worth things?
Because the king says so.
Fine, does mean accept it.
She did, eventually, and this is precisely how monetary systems are born. Not by force, but by collective agreement. The coin has no magical properties. The paper note is just paper. But when enough people agree to treat something as valuable, it becomes valuable. Money is at its philosophical core a shared hallucination, but a remarkably useful one.
Indian monetary history across the next 2000 years is frankly extraordinary. The Mauryas standardized coinage empire-wide. The Guptas minted gold coins so beautiful that they became the status symbols. Then came Sher Shah Suri, 1540 Common Era, who introduced the rupee.
The Mughals ran a trimetallic system of silver, copper and gold simultaneously, one of the most sophisticated monetary arrangements of the medieval world.
Act 3. The British are here. Before we proceed, it is worth noticing that Indian currency was once far more intricate than it is now. For centuries, 1 rupee was divided into 16 anna, 1 anna into 4 paise, and 1 paisa into 3 pies. People also used different units such as kaudi, damdi, and thela. It worked well for generation, but as commerce expanded, a simpler system was needed. And so, in 1957, India adopted a decimal currency system, replacing the old structure with a straightforward idea. 1 rupee equals 100 paise.
Right then, marvelous place. We'll be taking over the currency system for our own benefit naturally. But we have a system, the rupee. Oh yes, we are keeping the rupee. We are just going to tie it to sterling and set the exchange rate ourselves. And drain them. Sorry. Manage the monetary reserves from London.
That sounds like it benefits you considerably more than us.
The Paper Currency Act 1861. All currencies issued exclusively by the crown. Marvelously efficient.
You just made it illegal for anyone else to issue money.
Marvelously efficient, yes.
What he is not mentioning is that by fixing our rupee to the pound and controlling exchange rates from London, Indian trade revenues flowed outward. Dadabhai Nauroji called it the drain of wealth. Britain extracted equivalent of trillions of dollars from the subcontinent.
The British period was a masterclass in extraction disguised as administration, but it did produce one lasting institution that independent India would claim as its own. The Reserve Bank of India, established in 1935, originally privately owned and nationalized on the 1st of January 1949. The RBI today is the sole authority to issue currency notes in India, and it is the most powerful economic institution in the country.
Beta, come, let me show you something. You know what this is?
A coin.
It is history. When I was young, 1 rupee could buy you a full meal.
1 rupee? I can't even buy a Parle-G with 1 rupee now.
It is called inflation.
That is called a tragedy.
It is both. When too much money chases too few goods, prices rise and the value of each rupee falls. The RBI spends a considerable amount of its time ensuring that inflation doesn't spiral. It targets around 4% a year, enough to keep the economy moving, not so much that your savings quietly disappear.
The modern Indian rupee, adopted in 2010, designed by D. Uday Kumar of IIT Bombay, is a quiet piece of genius. The symbol fuses the Devanagari Ra with the Roman R, and the two horizontal lines evoke both the Indian tricolour and the equal sign, suggesting economic equality.
And of course, today's economy goes far beyond physical currency. We have credit. It allows businesses to invest before they have capital, individuals to build assets before they have full savings, and economies to grow faster than ever.
I bought a television I couldn't afford, and now I owe 3 times its value.
That is a misuse.
Yes?
How is owing 3 times what something costs a misuse? How is that even legal?
It's called interest, the price of borrowing someone else's money. The trouble is, credit cards in India carry interest rate between 36 and 42% annually. So if you pay only the minimum due each month, you will be paying for that television long after it has stopped working.
I am paying for a television that no longer turns
Well,
on.
welcome to the revolving credit.
Wait, so credit is borrowing from the future?
In my day, we called it debt and tried to avoid it.
In finance, we call it leverage and consider it sophisticated.
Same thing, different suit.
Act 5. And so here we are, from grain to gold to coins to paper to plastic to pixels. Money has never really been about the object. It has always been about trust. Trust that the coin has value. Trust that the note will be honored. Trust that the number on your screen corresponds to something real.
I said this in 3000 BCE. Nobody listened.
Well, you weren't born in 3000 BCE.
It seems metaphors clearly escape your timeline.
So when I pay with GPay, am I even using money?
You are using a promise, a digital promise, backed by the Reserve Bank, backed by the Government of India, and backed by the trust of 1.4 billion people.
That's actually kind of beautiful.
The Indian financial system is also moving towards a central bank digital currency, the digital rupee, issued directly by the RBI, faster, traceable and secure.
I just want to know, after all of this, after so many years of economic evolution, can Arjun finally get me my pod?
I just UPI transferred 800 rupees. Did you get it?
Oh yes, I did. Money began as a solution to a problem. How do two people with different things trade fairly? Over 5,000 years, it became shells, then metal, then paper, then ledger entries, then light on a screen. The Indian rupee traces its name to Sanskrit and its soul to the Indus Valley. It has survived empires, colonization, demonetization, and the invention of cryptocurrency. At its heart, every note, every coin, every digital transaction carries one quiet message. I trust you and you trust me back.
Life does not tell us to break, but to repeat. We carry within. Now it's time to self-composed English poem Kanji on the theme of courage, reverence and hope.
Good morning, everyone. Life. Life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. Sometimes we don't fail because we are not capable. We fail because we simply stop one step too soon. So before you decide to give up, ask yourself, what if the next step changes everything? What if the only thing standing between failure and success is just one more attempt? This poem is dedicated to every dreamer who has ever felt like giving up. I present to you, just hold on one more time. When the road runs rough and your steps grow slow. When the road runs rough and your steps grow slow. And the strength you had seems faint to show. When the plans you made look far from right and you feel like you have lost the will, you have lost the fight. Rest if you must, let your heart find breath, but don't give in to a quiet death. For many have stood where you stand today, with hope half gone and dreams in delay, and many have quit when they felt the strain, not knowing how close they stood to gain. Just one more effort, one steady climb, and it might have rewritten their fate in time. The climb feels the steepest just before it's through, as if the end demands the most from you. So hold your ground when your courage shakes, when every effort feels like mistakes, when the world moves on and you feel behind, and restless fears start crowding your mind. You may not see how close you are, just a line between almost and a star. As greatness lives in the will to stay, in choosing to fight one more hard day. So rise again, though you may fall each time. Just hold on one more time. Thank you.
It is admired, with a passion carried through every note. It is now time for the English song performance.
topic that quietly touches every heart. It is now time to immerse ourselves in a soulful patriotic song performance.
Now, let's welcome our talented performers for a soulful classical dance performance and let the magic of their feet enchant us all.
There are moments when instruments speak more beautifully than words even can, and every melody feels like a story flowing through the heart. It is now time to witness a captivating rock performance by a few students of our class.
मेरी रूह का परिंदा फड़फड़ाए एक पल में ठहरूं पल में उड़ जाऊं मैं लगती है जो याद नजरी तू मुड़े साथ उड़ जाऊं तेरे कारवां में शामिल होना चाहूं कभी आते राश के मैं काबिल होना चाहूं देखी करा मुर्शिद मेरा मुर्शिद मेरा मुर्शिद मेरा
Time to turn up the energy. Welcome before you the talented students of our class to present a group dance.
People who may know the राहतों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है, किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है।
एक दिन बिक जाएगा माटी के मोल, जग में रह जाएंगे प्यारे तेरे को। एक दिन बिक जाएगा माटी के मोल, जग में रह जाएंगे प्यारे तेरे को। दूजे के होठों को देकर अपने की कोई निशानी छोड़ फिर दुनिया से दो। एक दिन बिक जाएगा माटी के मोल, जग में रह जाएंगे प्यारे तेरे को। करम कम धारा जो बहती है मीठे रहती है, बहती धारा बन जा फिर दुनिया से दो। एक दिन बिक जाएगा माटी के मोल, जग में रह जाएंगे था